Hello, Star Wars players. Welcome to the Set 10 Spoiler Show Extravaganza. My name is Queso Sauce 37, and I will be here for a little while today. I have about 6 or 7 cards that I have the privilege of being able to spoil here for you guys today. We'll have a video interview that I did with Dan. I always mess up his last name, so I do apologize in advance. Dan Tartaglione or whatever from California. He has a spoiler for us, and we did a quick video interview last night, and that'll be about 15 or 20 minutes. And I have a few other player creators who sent me their cards so that I could spoil them for them with some write-ups and some other versions and stuff. We can show you those. And then there's a few cards from design that haven't yet been spoiled, and we're going to go through those and kind of show you some new cards. I think I have about 3 dark side, 3 light side, maybe 1 extra one if we're feeling kind of saucy. But yeah, so without further ado, we're going to start off with we're going to go with some dark side cards first, and that first card that we have for you is going to be a spoiler from a European creator. Let me grab the name from that one real quick. Username Rolling Snakes. His name is Gunner, and his card is going to be Jabba's Space Cruiser V. Let me pull that one up for you guys here on the stream. So, Jabba's Space Cruiser V is a virtual of the special edition ship that Jabba has. It can add an alien pilot, 1 alien pilot, and up to 6 passengers. Permanent pilot provides ability of 2. When it's deployed, you can download an alien leader aboard for free. Immune to attrition less than 5. Pretty good stats, also with power 5, armor 5, hyperspeed 4, deploys for 4, and forfeits for 6. I don't know if maybe I cut off the Destiny number or if it just wasn't on what he sent me for the game text. So I imagine it's probably just a half slip, so the Destiny number would remain the same. And then he had a little bit of a blurb to write up about that. Let's see. He says, the idea was to create a card that would be good in scum decks, primarily MKOS, but also Court of the Vile Gangster. It might see play in Agents of Black Sun, but the use of the free alien leader deployment is much more limited in that deck because Shizor and Balatik are currently the only alien leaders that AOBS can run. Since MKOS frequently starts Power of the Hut, this card will be pullable, which means the deck now has a more reliable way of establishing presence in space. This will hopefully make the deck more competitive. In terms of alien leaders, Chal Bakan is a strong pull as he can get a non-unique alien of your rep species. And then he also mentions if your rep is a pilot, a pirate, not a pilot, Sidon Thano is a really good pull too. He's one of the newer reps that people can use with the pirate game text. So, Jabba's Space Cruiser V. Definitely, I like this card for Court. I like this card for any deck that can start Power of the Hut. Because since it has a permanent pilot, you could just use it, as a Power 5 ship with a ability to permanent pilot, and other guys can go on there for forfeit fodder or as 1 alien pilot. So, the Space Cruiser was used pretty often, if I remember correctly, in Legacy. So, having that back in the meta, I think will help out those decks. The independent starships package is kind of limited in what you can run. There's like Zuckuss and Misshunter, Maul Sith Infiltrator, the new Missin Marinette, I think it's called. There's not a ton of good independent ships. I guess Guri has the Stinger, and then there's Ellis in Hinthra. But always good for another good splashable ship that can be used by different deck types. So definitely like the direction of this card, and I think it'll see some play. So thanks Gunner for sending that one in. Shout out to the Euro guys. I tried to do this stream at a more convenient time, also just to get the cards out as soon as possible for everybody. But hopefully there's some people who are able to check the stream out and all that. And there was one other thing he wanted to mention. Shout out to the Danish community for organizing Tula regionals back in the day and being awesome hosts, especially Casper, Aramit69 here on the forums, who let me sleep in his kitchen. So that's a pretty cool story, and I always want to make sure if anyone has a shout out, we can get out on the Twitch channel that we can do that. So thanks, Gunner, once again, and may the force be with you. So let me get rid of that one, get rid of the cruiser. Our next one is going to be a card from our East Coast friend, Mr. Taco Bill Kafer. He sent me in another ship, ironically enough. I didn't realize that I was doing two ships in a row. But this is a dark side TIE fighter that I think most of us have kind of wanted to use in the past. So maybe now that there's a virtual version, we can play with Black 3 in our decks. Black 3 is a premier uncommon ship. It's pretty standard for a TIE LN. It's power 1, maneuver 3. Can add a pilot. While with a Black Squadron TIE, you can force drain +1 here. While DS613 piloting, immune to attrition less than 4. And during battles here, players must draw destinies from the bottom of their reserve deck. I thought this was a really cool mechanic to kind of, it's not necessarily like substituting destinies, but you just draw destinies from the very bottom of your reserve deck. This could be really useful in situations where you're able to use like maybe Forlom to put a card underneath your yeah, I could call Google, and that's this is maybe a poker reference or something. Sort of dealing from the bottom of the deck. That'll get you kicked out of most places if they catch you. So definitely just some really neat game techs. I like the fact that we were able to play with Black 3. Black 2 has been virtualized and is a really good TIE fighter, but the third one hasn't seen much play since the reset. So I really like the drain +1 text also. It'll only with the Black Squadron TIE, so you're gonna have to sort of incentivize using more ties, which I think is a good thing. So, but yeah, immune to attrition less than 4, and drawing battle destinies from the bottom of your reserve deck. So, definitely some cool game text. And then Bill sent over with his text sort of like a bunch of versions that that didn't like become what this card ended up being. So he sent over a bunch of them. So I'm just going to kind of read like a couple just to sort of see where maybe he was going with some of these other ones, and then we can move on to the next one. So one of the other versions here says it would be power +2 while Vader here, and your ties are immune to all tri-spinning and may not have their power reduced by opponent. I really liked that one. I mean, obviously it seems like it'd be really strong, being immune to things like power pivot and dash Rendar, and then all tri-spinning, which maybe this was kind of a response to when the WAP space deck was really strong, and they were using that to kind of Talon roll TIE fighters all over the place. I know Taco Bill has always had an affinity for playing TIE fighters and TIE fighter decks. Back in the day, I think there was even a deck type that was called Taco Bill Ties, sort of an HDV deck, hunt down virtual, that abused the heck out of TIE fighters. So I know Taco Bill has always been a TIE fighter kind of guy, so definitely interesting this game text on that TIE fighter. So thanks, Bill, for sending me your spoiler. Glad I was able to spoil it out for you. Really cool design. I think this card will see play in TIE fighter decks, obviously, and maybe with more of those cards getting virtualized, we can have more incentive to play those kind of decks. So, and then my third dark side. Third dark side spoiler that I have is actually, I think, a TIE fighter helper as well. This one comes to us from Max Beto, the forum name, which I think he's actually in the chat right now. So shout out to you there. He comes to us from Texas, and he has his card, which is Commander Brandy, the Dagobah Imperial. He's power 1, ability 3. adds 2 to the power of any ship he pilots, and 3 if it's the Judicator. So right away, you get some Alert My Star Destroyer virtual support there. You can use that card to squadron assignments your Star Destroyer to get Brandy, or the other way around. Your total battle destiny here is +1 for each tie subtype here or aboard same starship. During your turn, may upload 1 launch bay or a non-unique tie. So, sort of what I was saying, this card definitely is a TIE fighter centric card. Your total battle destiny here is +1 for each TIE subtype. So the subtypes, there's TIE LNs, there's TIE interceptors, there's TIE defenders, there's TIE bombers, there's the scythe ties. So there's about as many different TIE subtypes as there are TIE fighter cards in our game almost. So um, I could see that being pretty cool if you're planning on running sort of like a monkey ties kind of deck. Um, but I'm not sure that he would be on a Star Destroyer necessarily in that situation. But and then the other game text, you could upload non-unique ties or the launch bay, which I think is a non-unique Star Destroyer site that goes on your Star Destroyers, and your TIE fighters deploy there at a discount or something similar. I don't know the game text for that card off the top of my head. Maybe Max in the chat can let me know what the launch bay game text was all about. So yeah, yeah, the Judicator is a great ship. I think that's the one that has the game text referring to weapons or adding to weapons. Um, but correct me if I'm wrong on that. So a matching character. He's a commander. He's not like an admiral or anything like that, so he doesn't have synergy with Imperial Command. But you could pull him with Admiral Piet. Um, yeah, and so the Star Destroyer launch bay is -2 to the ties. Thank you very much. And it's extra activation for Star Destroyer decks that typically need it. Yeah, definitely. Like getting the launch bay out was probably something that was kind of a yeah, the pull chain that you can do there to get extra activation and extra ties, and then the Judicator with the laser cannon battery. Yeah, I can see this guy being a pretty cool kind of utility Imperial for maybe like a flagship ops kind of deck or monkey ties or something in that kind of decks that we haven't seen lately sort of category. But I like that he works with code clearance rather than Imperial arrest order. I've been trying to use code clearance a lot because I feel like it's got a lot of value right now with Darkseid. So definitely neat for sure. Thanks, Max Beto, for letting me spoil your card. Um, I think I think there's a lot of really cool synergy you could do with this card. And then any sort of deck that likes to run Star Destroyer weapons is going to run the Judicator anyway. So yeah. Um, so there we have 3 dark side cards with the black 3, Commander Brandy, and the Space Cruiser. Um, kind of sporting dark side space in a lot of different ways than what we've seen. Right now we see a lot of um, finalizer, or we see like dedicated space matching decks with a lot of Saber ones and Maul's ship and the short range fighter combos, Boba Fett Slave One with Admiral Ozzel on it. Anything that we can do to sort of get different space packages and different cards being used is pretty cool with me. I'd love to be able to mess around with some of these cards and get different different ideas going and different sort of different deck types, honestly, because like a lot of these cards I don't necessarily see fitting into the current top tier decks, but maybe they will help some of those tier 2 or 3 decks become a lot more usable, a lot more fun to play. So definitely thank you guys. Those were 3 player creator cards, and they all sort of sent me their cards to spoil them. So I want to say thank you guys to let me do the fun part of having a virtual card. That's kind of the fun part, of spoiling it and having a big discussion about it. So I appreciate you guys letting me kind of have that moment, press the button for you. So um, we're gonna move on from the dark side cards, and I'm gonna move to our video interview that I did with Dan. Um, this this video we did last night, interview for about 15-20 minutes. I tried to get a couple of these done. I do want to apologize to Mike Pistone. I wasn't able to connect with him. Schedules this time of year are a little busy, and we weren't able to link up. So I do apologize. It was mostly stuff that I had going on. So um, maybe next time we'll get together. You can be on the show. So sorry about that, but thanks Dan for being on the show. And let me see if I can make sure my setup is ready for this. We're gonna switch. Yeah. All right. Hello, Star Wars players. This is going to be our interview with Dan
All
for
right.
his virtual card that's going to be in set 10. Say hi to everybody, Dan.
Hello, everybody.
All right. So, Dan's card was for is a virtual light design that you got for. Go ahead and explain the iteration of where you got the design from.
So back in 2015, I ended up donating some of the money to, I think it was $100 to the PC. So as a thank you, they gave me one of their V Light designs. It was where I actually had an option of picking, let's say, 8, maybe 10 cards. And I actually chose Luke's X-34 land speeder to be virtualized at the time.
Okay. Do you remember some of the other choices that you could have picked? I know probably been a while.
Yeah, it's been a little while, but off the not that I can think of off the top of my
Yeah, I
head.
know. I know. There's always like a long list on those, on which ones you can pick from. I think
Yeah,
they always come up with some pretty niche cards for those, but sometimes they end
I
up being
think
pretty cool.
I think at the moment Luke's rifle, the one that we saw a couple sets ago, was in that list as
Okay.
well.
Yeah, that one I like that card. It's got a good destiny number, and it goes on
Hmm.
rebels and Lukes, and can target undercover spies and what have you. So I
And it
find
has
that to
the
be a cool
ritual.
card. Yeah, yeah, definitely. So cool. Um, so with this design, your light side card that you picked, the X34 speeder. Without saying too much, we're going to kind of reveal the text here at the end. Um, what did you have in mind for the card? What sort of decks did you want it to go into, or what did you have in mind for the design?
So originally with Luke's X-34, unless I'm breaking Fight Club here, but originally I wanted to do a Diplo type of helper or something a little bit thematic. Um, I know at the time Reed Smith was running his Diplo where he would sell the land speeder or sell the EOPs, and I was
Hmm.
thinking along the lines of something to help that.
With the
But at the same,
how did we get into this mess? A bunch of copies of that and all that. Is that the deck you're
yes,
referring to?
yeah, that the deck he ran, I want to say it was 2016
The NPC,
World.
right? Or yeah,
No, it was
definitely.
a World.
Okay,
It
okay,
was the Worlds where he faced Tom Hayden in the finals,
right.
and Tom just Reed was playing IE, Tom was playing QMC, and Landy Claw basically won it for Tom at the time.
Okay, yeah. Landing
But
claw
it
can
wasn't
definitely
so.
win games for sure.
Yeah. Oh yes. And I know Reed wasn't running anything to help him against Landy Claw at that time. But so after a while, me and the designers, we got stuck on it a little bit. And then eventually we decided, actually, Matt Cooley at the time decided to step in and say, it's been a while, and you can design almost any card that you would want. So, episode, so again, I'm not going to get a little bit too further, but episode 8 came out at the time, and I thought this card
Okay.
would be something that would be useful.
All right. Um. So with that in mind, the the game text that you ended up with on this card, did it go through a bunch of changes? Was there sort of a lot of back and forth, or was it relatively kind of streamlined and it just kind of needed to be poked in the right direction?
So with this one, there was a lot of changes. Uh, Originally, again, I don't want to go into a lot of details
Right.
just because of Fight Club, but yeah, originally I wanted to make something cool and fun that was going to be useful in a variety of decks, but at the same time, stay true to the actual card.
Okay.
And there was a lot of changes. There was adding power, adding destiny, reducing power.
Getting the
Um,
numbers to be right in the formula to make sure that it works for the designers.
Essentially, yeah, it was a lot of the biggest issue that we ran into was the text itself. There's limits, as you can tell, there's limits on the text that we're allowed to put onto the cards.
Right.
And so what I did, so eventually I talked to Anthony Howard, Batmouse.
Mm-hmm.
He actually came up with a really good idea for the card, and I think that was one of the actual end pieces of the card.
Neat. Okay, cool. It's always nice to kind of hear how maybe, not just your own thoughts on the card, but if you can get sort of some
Mhm.
other people to kind of help out. Like we have a card, the moderator team has a card that we're working on from our Legacy design back from, we had Yavin 4 back in Legacy. And so getting multiple people to agree on a card can be kind of crazy, but it is kind of nice being able to
Yes.
bounce different ideas and you can have, more kind of spitball ideas and see what sticks rather than just sort of tunnel visioning in on your own ideas.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's one thing that I felt the team and I had a lot of. We were all willing to accept each other's ideas. There was not a lot of arguing. There's no arguing. In fact, there was just a lot of like, well, if we go this route, this might come into play, and then so it was just a lot of. It just took time,
Right.
and unfortunately, being able just being able to talk on the forums kind of hurt, just because I'm not really the best person to check on the forums. I mean, I have them open every day, but at
Right.
the
But
same
yeah,
time,
things can get lost, it
exactly.
happens.
So just life in general happens.
Right.
So
And the designers have, so many other player card designs that they got to
mhm,
check up on and, you know,
exactly.
it's I know it can be tough on them and they get a lot of sort of sometimes negative feedback from people saying that it's really difficult to get
Hmm.
your cards through, but you got to remember that these are guys who are doing this on their own their own time and there's a lot of cards they got to sift through and a lot of things they got to make sure because we also see what happens when we release a card that maybe shouldn't have been released and then the negative feedback that comes from that so
Exactly.
we're
And
we're
chat,
doing this for the best.
yeah, and everybody's a volunteer at this point. So I don't think that anybody really has ever had any bad experiences with the card or bad experiences with any of the volunteers. So that's always good. I mean, our community itself is a really good community.
Definitely, yeah. Always come back to that for sure. Um, so yeah, is there anything else you wanted to add before we go ahead and give the people what they want and get the text out there?
I think at this point, no. Let's just get the text out there
All
so that way
right,
people
so
know
I'll
exactly what we're
give.
talking about.
I assume you have the text in front of you. I also have it.
Yes.
When the video goes live, when we air this, I'll have it up on the screen as well for everybody to read. But I'll give you the
Okay.
honors of reading the game text for your virtual card.
Okay, so the card that I'm actually pushing through is the V4X Ski Speeder. It's the speeders at the end of episode 8, where they're
Okay.
all on the
The salt planet
salt.
crate. Okay.
That's right. Yes, and they're all using them to fight off the First Order. So again, so the underlying card is actually going to be Luke's X-34 land speeder.
Okay, that's kind of cool way to
So
make your V Light,
cool.
a card. Even though you might have gone with something sort of episode 4, you've
Hmm.
kind of twisted it and just used that as the underlying card. I really like that.
Yes. And then so it's going to be a light vehicle, combat vehicle.
Okay.
The lore itself is blank, so it's not an enclosed vehicle. That's
Okay,
that's the big.
so
That's
so it is a
so
what is the opposite? The open air vehicles like the skiffs and the
exactly.
things like that. Okay.
So it's an open air vehicle. It's power 2, maneuver 5, and land speed 3. So we went with the lower land speed because they're not exactly fast, but they're really hard to hit. So that's the maneuver
Yeah, they're
5.
very agile, but yeah, I wouldn't see them beating like a speeder bike or something
Hmm.
else in a
Yeah,
distance race. Okay.
exactly. And then the deploy is 2 and forfeit is 4.
Okay.
And then as for the text itself, it's may add 1 pilot. It's the matching combat vehicle for any resistance pilot. The pilot's power equals 0. And when the pilot is targeted by a weapon or an interrupt, you may use the X-4X or the V-4X's defense value instead, and then it may move as react.
Okay, so if you have a character on there, when they're targeted by like a force lightning or a lightsaber, you can use the defense value of the vehicle rather than.
Exactly,
Okay, nice.
exactly.
And also,
And
it can move as a react no matter what planet
yes,
it's on. Okay,
no matter what planet it is on.
okay, nice. And does it have like, is it a rebel icon or I guess it would be a resistance icon?
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
or
we really haven't gotten to that yet. I think that's going to be a little bit more on the rules team.
the proofing and
But
yeah, they'll get that all figured
yes,
out. Okay, cool. So one more time, just in case. So it's the V-4X Ski Speeder is the official title. Is it going to have a C slip, or is it going to be a new image for that card? Do you know?
it will be a new
A
image.
new image, nice. Those are always cool to see, especially for some of the episode 8 cards. We haven't had too many of
Hmm.
those yet. So, all right. So yeah, the Ski Speeder with a matching combat vehicle for any resistance pilot, and the pilot's power is equal to 0. When targeted by a weapon or an interrupt, you can use the defense value of the speeder instead, and it can
Hmm.
move as a react. So nice. I really think that that's a cool card. Um,
Nice.
like the old allies deck would definitely want to use that on the ground.
Hmm.
Using that as a matching vehicle for like Poe Dameron would be pretty sweet.
And one thing that actually came up as we were working on the card was you have characters like Poe, you have characters like Rose, who actually will benefit from it being an open air vehicle. So Rose will still be present at the site, so you'll be able to retrieve from her
That's true.
as she's piloting the vehicle, and she has a higher defense
Yeah, it'll
value
also
now.
make her defense value +3, basically. Yeah. So,
Yes.
wow.
And the only thing that we realized was that even though he pilots them in the movies, Finn technically can't pilot them because he's not a pilot at this point.
That's true. But maybe we can make a new version of Finn, like an episode 8 version of
Hopefully,
Finn, and he could
hopefully.
have a pilot icon for
Hmm.
piloting these. One thing I don't think we covered in the text, obviously it'll be on screen, whatever, but what is the Destiny number of the
Oh, the Destiny number is a 5,
Destiny 5?
so
Nice.
it has
So,
a good Destiny
yeah,
value too.
nice. So that doesn't hinder, sometimes the good combat vehicles, especially for dark side, can kind of be like twos and
Hmm.
ones. So nice. And I also like what is I forget what the card is, the Endor interrupt, where is it get alongside that one, where you can use it to like blow up other combat vehicles. I can't remember. It's high speed tactics for dark side, but the light side version? The name of it escapes me at this point. But basically, it's like you target the maneuver of your vehicle, and then you get to draw destiny, and then it blows up their vehicle with maneuver. So it might.
Yes, yeah, it's, get alongside that one. So
Yeah,
that's
okay, that's what I
for
thought it was. Yeah, yeah.
you
For
interrupt.
dark side, it's high speed tactics. I just didn't know what the light
Hmm.
side one was. I could see
Yeah.
maybe light side wanting to use that card with this because sometimes the speeder bikes didn't fit in, but this has much better
Hmm.
game text for a vehicle than like a speeder bike does.
Exactly. And I will say this: the part that Batmouse helped me with was the matching pilots. That way, you can actually give Poe something to fly around on the ground, where instead of having your speeders just floating around your deck, these are a little bit easier to pull.
Yeah, so you could use that with the maneuvering flaps combo then, or moving flaps effect
Yes.
to
Yes.
flash Poe or flash this to get any resistance
Hmm.
pilot out of your deck. Yeah, so then maybe even decks like EBO or speeders decks would want to play this because
Hmm.
it's a good ship and it's a different sort of character package for that. So
Hmm.
nice, nice. I definitely think that card will definitely see some play. I would definitely be interested in trying it out.
Yeah, I think and right now it's you might see it in a Jakku deck, obviously,
Hmm.
or maybe a Tatooine deck. The fact that it's reacts on any planet is kind of nice.
Yeah,
Whereas with the speeders, they're like you can only react on Hoth.
yeah, that's one thing yeah, for sure. Being able to react anywhere as opposed to the speeders. I could see even the Rogue One objective, the no idea deck using, you put your spy that has the Stardust on it, and that way they can use a higher defense value instead of maybe getting hit.
Hmm.
Like Jyn Erso has only defense value 3, but if she's on this, then she
Yeah.
has. I guess well, she's not a pilot, so. But if you had it on a different,
Mhm.
like Cassian or one of the other
Cassian,
one of the other
I think
spies.
is K2SO a pilot as well?
Yeah, K2SO is a pilot. Yeah, so he could
Okay, that'd
have it,
be
and he would
okay.
get +1 defense value from that as
Hmm.
well. So, yeah,
Yeah. And
That's
my biggest thing was being that it was a open air vehicle, giving it some sort of protection, especially against trample and force lightning. Those two cards were for months my biggest bane.
yeah.
I wanted to provide something that was useful, whereas giving a little bit. I mean, the vehicle itself can be open air and enclosed, so we settled on being an open air, and then that's when we decided to go with the defense value.
Right, yeah, I've been trying to play a lot more non-mains decks for light side lately just because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I've been depending upon like my father before me and that stuff and trying to play No Idea and Diplo to sort of break out of that. And you definitely have to run so many cards to kind of deal with trample, force lightning,
Yes.
weapons in general because you're running so many characters that aren't really, able to withstand those lightsabers and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So it's cool to have a more useful card that can also add two to your power, react your
Exactly.
characters around. I think Diplo would love this card. Um, so yeah, great job.
And then the other thing is that it doesn't have to be in battle either.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
just whenever it's targeting. So
Yeah,
I
so it's just
mean,
whenever it's targeted, so that helps get
mhm,
because yeah, it wouldn't really get around trample or force lightning if that was the
exactly.
case. Yeah, yeah.
And the other nice thing is it does. I mean, with the OA deck, I mean, you still get that -2, so it's technically you need a 7 to hit whoever you need to in battle. So
With lightsabers, that's still not that hard though.
no,
So
no.
it just gives those other characters sort of a little bit of a bump, you know,
Mhm.
and yeah, nice. I approve. I think, like I said, I would definitely play this card at least for sure to see if it fits in and make some of those other cards like Dash and his speeder maybe would
Yes,
replace that card or um, that blue 11 I think was the card that came out in the last set. You know,
yes. I mean,
um,
I like Blue 11 just because it does have some immunity.
I've run it, yeah, but I felt like there's that text where you can deploy non-pilots aboard, and like that text
Mhm.
sometimes I don't have any. I run so many pilots. It's like, oh, I need to have some non-pilots for that one to work, but this one will work better with just
Sure.
regular resistance pilots. So right
Mhm.
on. All right. So is there anything else you wanted to add to our extravaganza
No,
here?
I think I think between the two of us, we've covered pretty much everything
Right.
regarding the card
Nice.
itself.
Well, thanks again for doing this. We're gonna run this interview during our big live stream where we reveal all the cards tomorrow afternoon.
Okay,
So this will be kind of a good little break. We can show some cards, show your video, and do a lot of fun stuff. So maybe if you have
awesome.
time,
Sounds good.
check us out on Twitch and all that good stuff. So, all right. Thanks, bud. All right. So that was that video. Thanks once again, Dan, for joining me on the interview yesterday. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed that. Um, that ski speeder is going to be pretty cool, I think. Especially, I'm interested to see the image for it. Because those were most people who watch the show and know me personally, I'm an episode 8 fan. I know most people, or some people aren't. But those ski speeders, that was a fun scene in that movie. So I'm interested to see the picture on those little speeders to see if they capture the moment the way I want them to. So that was our first light side card. The ski speeder from Dan, which the underlying card is Luke's land speeder. Kind of cool to use one of your virtual light cards because sometimes those lists that you can use for the donor program don't have exactly the card that you may want, but kind of taking it and using, well, that's the underlying card, but this is what's going on top. So I kind of liked his ingenuity there of stretching the box of the virtual design there. So kudos to Dan and the design team, and we'll get this show rolling with some more light side spoilers. All the cards I have left from here on out are light side, and in my opinion, I've got some pretty cool cards to show you for light side. Um, so let's kick it off you know, with a double-sided card, right? Like those are cards that everyone likes to play with, and they're unique and interesting, and they usually resolve or have big decks built around them, right? So this is a double-sided card. It is an objective. It is called the Hyperdrive Generator's Gone Virtual, and I guess the other title would be We'll Need a New One Virtual. Basically, it's just a revamp of the hyperdrive deck. Um, the hyperdrive objective had some weird stuff on the zero side where you couldn't deploy systems, but then you could once you were flipped. There was just some real awkward mechanics, and I think that this version of the hyperdrive objective is going to make this deck a lot more fun, a lot more interactive, and just a lot more logical. Like, I always felt like hyperdrive was working against itself, and had just a lack of synergy. So you deploy the city outskirts, Watto's junkyard, and credits will do fine. That's, I believe, the same. For remainder of game, you may not deploy cards with ability except unique aliens, Republic characters, Republic starships, and Episode 1 Jedi. Again, I think that's exactly the same as it used to be. Except for, I think it also said you can't deploy systems on this side. Your destiny is suspended and you lose no force from reflections to objectives. So you don't have to worry about AOBS, and you don't have to worry about bringing him before me. Um, and then while this side up, once per game, you can upload an Episode 1 system. So there's Coruscant, or Naboo, or Tatooine. Unless Qui-Gon is present, Maul is immune to attrition, which that is a holdover from the old objective as well. And you flip this card when there are 4 or more cards beneath credits will do fine. So the flip is the same as well. You still are trying to occupy the credits, occupy the outskirts or the junkyard, do 4 strains, get cards on credits will do fine, and flip with that. Once you flip, you get the bonus of your Republic characters who are unique, are power +1, forfeit +2, and aliens may not have their deploy cost modified to Tatooine locations. Whenever you complete a non-substituted Battle Destiny draw, you retrieve 1 force. And the force that you retrieve in this way may be taken into hand. So the way I read that is whenever you complete a non-substituted Battle Destiny draw is whenever you draw Battle Destiny, except for if you substitute it with a smoke screen or a Darklighter spin or other card, you can retrieve a force directly into hand. Like, light side is a retrieval. Light side always has retrieval or is more based upon retrieval. This fits in really well with what this deck would want to do. And then once during opponent's turn, if the Queen's Royal Starship is at a system, may activate up to 2 force. And then it also has during your control phase, opponent loses 1 force for each battleground occupied by Amidala or Jar Jar. So I don't know. I really like this revamp of the hyperdrive objective. I hadn't played very much hyperdrive back in the old days, legacy days, or even in the new reset era. So this will get me to at least build a couple of builds of this deck, because it just doesn't seem. It's the previous versions of hyperdrive just seemed so clunky and just lacked synergy. This just it's more refined. It's less restrictive. You can play more cards. You can put systems out. You can activate force without depending upon Wisas and speak to the Jedi Council chambers and all that stuff. But yeah, I think that this will really help. Yeah, no need to force senators in there. I definitely agree with that, Chris. I don't know. It's going to open up the deck to more creative deck building and to let it see play more. So kudos to getting sort of an objective out that's not exactly new to us, but it will definitely see a lot of more new builds for hyperdrive with this card. There's already a few hyperdrive helpers out there like Obi-Wan, Padawan Learner V, and the Camp, and other cards like that. So yes, in chat, this is Virtual Set 10 from the Star Wars CCG Players Committee. This is the Decipher Star Wars CCG that was printed way back in the day. So yeah, thanks for catching our Set 10 spoiler show. Appreciate you checking it out. So that is hyperdrive. I don't know. I just feel like it's a cool objective, and it's about time that we've had some new decks to play, and just better versions of hyperdrive. So with my next one, we have another light side card that I think is just really fun, really cool, and I think will help us see some cards that we haven't played with as much lately. So with that in mind, this card is called Jedi Business. All right, yeah, thanks for the bits. So Jedi Business is a underlying card of unusual amount of fear. It's a light side effect that's immune to alter, deploys on table, and non-Episode 1 Jedi are lost. So you can't play Obi-Wan, you can't play Jedi versions of Luke. Qui-Gon is deploy -1. Mace is immune to attrition unless with Anakin or Vader. Once per turn, may deploy Malastare, Most Espa, sorry, Nightclub, or an Episode 1 lightsaber from reserve deck. Reshuffle. So this is a card to help Episode 1 Jedi. Guys like Mace Windu, guys like Qui-Gon. Also, you can deploy the Nightclub. The Nightclub was a linchpin of several decks back in the Legacy era called the 2-2 deck. It was basically just what it was called, or the Nightclub deck. Um, I could see someone just doing a start the Jedi Council chamber start and deploy Yoda, move him over, and bam, you've got your 2-2 deck back that we used to kind of have back in the day. So I'm really interested to see how this Jedi Business card affects decks like WAP. We could also see this in um, Hyperdrive, which we just spoiled. Hyperdrive got a lot better, and now you can play this card in Hyperdrive and have like a matching Sabers mains version of Hyperdrive with all these Episode 1 Jedi. Mace Windu being completely immune to attrition, although it is, without Anakin or Vader. You can pick your spots, and he can be your guy to go fight Maul or fight, other characters with Kylo and stuff like that. Qui-Gon getting deploy -1 is pretty huge. Like, he already has some deployment modifiers to Episode 1 locations on some of his personas, but, like, I believe that would make EPP Qui-Gon deploy -1. Like, that's pretty awesome. So, I think this Jedi Business card is really going to help specifically non-Luke mains decks, which, there's been a yearn for maybe toning the power level down of Like My Father Before Me. Maybe instead of toning that card down, we just need to make the other cards better. Um, and so this is sort of, I think, a good way of doing that. It allows you to pull Mos Espa. It allows you to pull the Nightclub. So, like I said, it could fit right into Hyperdrive, give you an extra activation right away. It could fit into, a Coruscant, maybe a Senate deck even. Who knows? There's lots of really cool options that I think you can do with this card. And yeah, Max Beto, I still don't think you can play Theed Palace Mace because Virtual Coruscant Mace exists. So you're going to play Virtual Coruscant Mace because that guy is amazing, right? Um, Okay, so yeah, that is Jedi Business. I think this card is going to have one of the biggest impacts on the meta of the entire set 10 because it's going to fit so well and it's going to change light side decks. I think this card is worth building throne room around. It's worth building different sort of versions of decks around because then you can use Luke in space. Do you remember how good Luke in space is, or maybe the new Rebellion's Hope Luke? You can definitely open up a lot of different deck building options by just not relying on Like My Father Before Me and using a card like this instead. So obviously, still certain decks will use Like My Father Before Me. Hitko will use it, and versions of TRM will still use it. But I think Jedi Business has potential, and can really be a heck of a fun card to play with. So definitely wanted to get that one on the show because I think that card or the Hyperdrive revamp are the two light side cards that I'm the most excited about. So I wanted to run about an hour, and we're about 46 minutes. So even though that's three cards for each side, I think I'm going to go ahead and do one more that I had prepared, sort of in keeping with this Jedi Business theme. We have, why not another Jedi to show you, like an Episode 1 Jedi. I mean, like freaking Plo Koon. Plo Koon has always been one of my favorite Jedi because he's green, he's a weird looking alien guy, and he's kind of like a Rastafarian dude in the cartoon show. And so, yeah, Plo Koon is freaking sweet, right? He's a Jedi Master, Power 5, Ability 7. Adds 2 to the power of anything he pilots. And then he deploys -2 to the same location as Ahsoka. and once per turn, he may lose the top card of the force pile to make your character or piloted Episode 1 Starfighter here forfeit +2, and immune to attrition for remainder of the turn. I think I might have had Kit Fisto and Plo Koon mixed up in my head, so don't judge me for that. But Plo Koon is still pretty awesome, but I like Kit Fisto. And so Plo Koon is he's more of the kind of weird looking like orange dude who has like the breathing mask on, and he's the one who found Ahsoka Tano way back in the day and made her go to the Jedi Temple and stuff. So he's also a really good pilot. He adds 2 to power of anything he pilots, and then also he can do this cool top card of the force pile thing to make your character here forfeit +2 and immune to attrition, or an Episode 1 Starfighter. Oh yeah, I guess I didn't have it prepared on one of my little slides, but yeah, we can do Kit Fisto after this too. Sure. I didn't want to necessarily say that there was a Kit Fisto, but somebody else did. So, but anyways, yeah, those two guys, I always get their names confused. I don't know. Maybe that's just my leisure activities getting in the way. But yeah, I really like this Plo Koon character because I like to play with Ahsoka because she's one of my favorite Star Wars characters, and this will give me more utility for playing Ahsoka. Um, because if I can sometimes get her for -2, or sometimes get this guy for only 3 force, that's like getting a Power 5 Ability 7 character for 3 force. That seems pretty rad, and I'm gonna try to do that whenever I can. And like you can also use like him and EPP Ahsoka to a site just seems like a really good beatdown force, right? Because then you can just lose a force and make himself or her immune to attrition, and forfeit +2. So I don't know. This guy, I think, in keeping with my theme of going Jedi business and hyperdrive, I could see Ahsoka and Plo being pilots and ground characters, in my hyperdrive deck or in a WAP deck. Um, so, in keeping with the let's give light side more toys to play with as opposed to taking away like my father before me. I'm not necessarily sure that's what design was thinking, but that seems to be where I feel like that they were going with this. Um, we don't need to help out Jedi Luke decks anymore, but if we can just give light side more options to play with, um, we can kind of balance things out that way. So. Yeah, like being able to do that ability in space to make an Episode 1 Starfighter completely immune, um, that's going to be big for being able to hold on to your system. Maybe do Tatooine Celebration in your hyperdrive deck and just keep your ship alive every turn. And, so yeah, it's you can do it during your turn and during their turn. Like, it's really cool. So I can definitely see Plo getting uh, getting used. I also like that we're seeing some Episode 1 cards virtualized. I know some of those cards can be harder to obtain for the new and returning players, but those of us that have these collections and we have all these cards and they were virtualized in the past, it's good to get these cards out of the binders and back into sleeves and back into decks. So I think we did a lot of good things with this set 10, and I haven't actually said it yet, but as soon as this live show is over, I'm going to post the entire set 10 spoiler list on the forums, Star Wars CCG forums. The entire set 10 list will be posted. There's a lot of cool cards in there. I know a lot of the player creators have done their own spoilings. We saw Ezra, we saw Newt, we saw Anakin's lightsaber. We've seen a lot of cards get spoiled, but even as much as I've shown you and as much as other players have shown you, there's another objective in this set. There's another, like few starting effects that you're going to want to take a look at. There's some characters that you're going to want to take a look at. Um, so, yeah, without further ado, I think, I've kind of got. I can probably come up with Kit Fisto's game text here real quick. Give me 2 seconds. And we'll just put it up there. It'll be awesome. Or actually, let's do another dark side card. Since I didn't do a dark side card, or we've done now more light side cards than dark side cards. We're gonna do a dark side card, and I've just give me like 4 seconds, and I'll have it, and it'll be great. And this one is gonna cause quite a stir, in my opinion. because it's a crazy card. It's a dark side system, and it it's going to change the way that you do a lot of stuff. Um, well, hold on. There we go. All right, my computer's weird. All right, got it. So this card is called Mustafar. It's a dark side system. It's a 2/1, 2 for dark, 1 for light. Once per turn, you may use one force to deploy a Mustafar site from reserve deck. Reshuffle. Light. While Vader on table, unless Padme at a Mustafar location, force drain -1 here. So, you can get drained for 2 at this system, but for a dark side, OMG, right? OMG. Mustafar. Like, you can do Mustafar with CRV, and you can start this with Senate. You can use this in Endor Ops to actually give yourself some force. Um, this system is going to change the way you play Darkseid, in my opinion. This card is so strong, and I really like it, but I worry that it could be just a huge boon to some dark side decks. I think TTO is going to play this card. I think Endor Ops of every sort of style is going to play this card because that deck already wants to deploy system, but is already has so many things it wants to do. It wants to pull Endor sites. It wants to pull systems. It wants to run matching sabers, matching ships. This is going to allow this deck to just eliminate some accelerates or some sonic bombardments. Like, you can pull Mustafar's castle with this system, and then you can use Mustafar's castle to pull Vader, and then you can use that site to put Vader anywhere you want. Um, like, this card is crazy, and I can't wait to get my hands on it and play this system because I think it's gonna really do some cool things in some cool dark side decks. Um, and then it is a drain too for the light side, um, unless you have Vader on the table, which most decks that run this are gonna put Vader out. So it can be a drain -1 as well. So it's got some defense against that, uh, already built in. But yeah, I think when I got to go through these cards and show you the ones I was the craziest about, Jedi Business, Mustafar, and the Hyperdrive Objective were all the ones that just screamed to me. Put these cards in decks and see what you can do. Um, so yeah, I can see Mustafar Senate. Okay, thanks Menzel. Kit Fisto. We got Kit Fisto as well. He's a Jedi Council member and a Power 5 Ability 7 Jedi Master. He also is going to add 2 to anything he pilots, and he deploys -1 to an Episode 1 site, -2 if it's underwater. Okay, so he would go -2 to like the Boss Nash Chambers or the Untungunda entrance. He's got land speed 2, which is cool. I like that. He's got his cool jumping abilities. Once per turn, may use one force, or place your combat card here in used pile to draw top card of reserve deck. Okay, I like that. If you end up playing combat, you can use this guy to sort of cycle your combat cards around, or just use one to draw one. But you might know what that card is and you really want it. It's worth more to pay one to draw one. But um, yeah, so that's deploy 6, forfeit 7. But another Episode 1 Jedi that we could use in our Hyperdrive and our WAP and our Jedi Business start decks. So really neat. I really think that the PC in the last couple sets has realized that in the first probably 5 or 6 virtual sets that we released, we were probably a little hesitant and a little shy about making crazy waves and doing stuff. But now that we've got sort of some wavos on the design team and we're pushing things a little bit, I think we're a little more we're releasing more exciting cards. and whether that be good or bad, and we have to deal with the repercussions of sometimes when we get things wrong, like with Shadows of the Empire. I think overall it's leading to more fun games of Star Wars. So um, these cards that are coming out, and you're going to see as soon as I get done here and post the whole list. Set 10 is a big change in the meta. I think there's going to be a lot of stuff from set 10 that it gets played. I'm very interested. I'll be doing a commentary at the Endor Grand Prix here in a month. Jesus, that kind of snuck up on us there. um, and I'm interested to see what you guys. I know it's maybe a little soon to drop kind of a crazy set on you guys for Endor, but I'm interested to see what y'all come up with, and what if there's just a small adjustment since it's so soon, or if people go in and they build the hyperdrive deck and they build some Jedi business start decks, or they get Mustafar going with a Senate deck or something like crazy like that. So I'm interested to see where the meta moves to, and I think some folks, I've heard people say, "Oh, player creator cards can be bad." I think this set has a ton of really good cards, and I think this is going to be a good time to play some cards. And this next year that we have for this meta coming up, I think will be heavily influenced by set 10, and we'll see a lot of new deck types being played for sure. So I think that just about wraps up what I had planned for this spoiler show. I wanted to go for about an hour, and we're just touching up on that. So yeah, thanks again, guys, for joining me here. If you're a past PC subscriber, thank you for keeping your subscriptions going on the channel. Right above my head or so, there should be a button that says sub. If you want to subscribe and support us. If you have Amazon Prime, it doesn't cost you anything. Just ask for instructions. We'll get you all set up on how to link your accounts. Um, and yeah, other than that, just hope everybody out there has a safe and happy holiday season, and a good new year. And if you're not at Endor, you're going to regret it, because I think playing Star Wars cards is going to be real fun. Thanks, guys.